Welcome to Project Eternity. And this presentation is going to take a slightly longer time because it covers a very important topic, which is the digital detox program that we offer. Whatever we do is through the spiritual way. And when we say spiritual, it's not really mumbo jumbo, but this is all about quantum physics, spiritual physics, purpose, astrosciences, and sacred geometry and other esoteric topics. The most important piece we should start off with is the why. Because understanding why you should do a digital detox program is much more important than the solution. If we can really understand the problem, the answer will come out of it. Because the answer is not separate from the problem. I can tell you that this is the most important statement to understand why we need a digital detox program, because it is all about separation. And we will come to that with quantum physics in a moment. Project Eternity, as you know, we transform successful business leaders and their generations through the ancient wisdom of alchemy, where there is no separation, no dichotomy between who you are, what you want to be, your business, technology, spirituality, your purpose, etc. etc. Before we begin this topic of detox, let's understand what the ancients did, what kind of a technology they used. If you look at their architecture and what they have done, we can only say it is amazing. It has lasted thousands of years, and we have no idea how they built all this. We think because we've got computers, we are a smart generation. I'll explain to you that perhaps it is not so. Take a look at some of these architectures like this one, the Kailash temple, which is created from one whole rock. Did they start from the top or the bottom? If you look at some of these architectures and these marvels, one thing is very clear. These people know something that we don't know right now. And they use no computers, no laptops, no Wi-Fi, nothing. To understand why these advanced civilizations did not use such devices is fundamentally important for us to find the answer. So, going back to the same question, how did an ancient civilization never use a power grid, never use robots, no computers, and they still did something that is marvelous, that has lasted time and time again? To answer the detox piece, we have to go back and find some answers. The first is the principle of paradox that exists in our reality. At some angle, the observer sees electrons as a particle. In a certain direction, or the same observer observes the light as a wave. Duality is embedded in our reality. And that's the fundamental thing. But the biggest fundamental thing is this. Everything we call real is made of things that cannot be regarded as real. If quantum physics hasn't profoundly shocked you, you haven't understood yet. Let's take an example of what he meant. When you look at a rose, for example, the same rose is actually not out there. It is in our mind. It is inside. The entire perception of outside is actually inside, which means the observer, that is us, and the object that we are observing is one and the same. There's no dichotomy. And that means, and this is where we bring the important construct, consciousness. Consciousness is pure energy. Where we focus, where focus goes, energy flows. And this is a statement from Tony Robbins. There are plenty of articles that actually explain how humans can connect with each other through the heart, the cardiac energy. And consciousness is real. Trees can create boundaries within themselves. So it's like live and let live model. They have no eyes, but they know they can sense it. Why? Because they're conscious. Birds, they have flocks. It's they can fly in flocks without bumping into each other. Shoals of fish can create different structures and very complex structures like sphere and all that. And nobody bumps into each other. And this is the most important piece. Take a look at this picture. There's an entire torus model created because of this fish. Now, regarding the torus model, torus is a very complex shape. And if you really see, if the fish have to organize themselves, they have to be highly conscious. Which is the reason we ponder about this question: how did the fish organize themselves in the form without bumping into each other? Humans cannot. Only humans can when they are forced to, like going to war or this kind of a military nonsense. To understand this question, we have to go back into ancient wisdom of the heart and also about the torus. The torus is a shape of everything. How do we know that? Because we can see it, we can observe it. The universe, the apple, the human body, the magnet, the tree with its root and the stem and the leaves, everything is a torus. That's the reason the ancients said, and these ancients coded this wisdom in philosophy for us to find meaning and then prove it, which is as above, so below, as within, that is, as inside us, so without, which is the reason the observer and the observed are one and the same. So let's talk about electromagnetic spectrum and the field of the heart. It is proven that people can communicate with each other at a certain distance and even remotely. How? We can talk about that later. But for the time being, just remember that hugs are powerful. There's tons of articles about it. Don't worry about it, but the most important thing is, let's look at these two pictures. Many people don't know or have not observed the heart has 4 beats in a cycle. What happens with the 4 beats in a cycle? Because the blood is basically spun in the heart and it creates an electromagnetic force. All these combine together to kind of create a torus within a torus within a torus. This is the reason hugs feel good from a mom. It is divine love. Words cannot express it, but the feelings of the heart know what it is. And this is because torus feels nest within each other without dichotomy, without separation. And this is common across everything, which is even our DNA. So as the energy spins and the blood spins in the heart and it creates the chakra system, what matters at this moment of time is how these torus fields work together. Torus fields also have the property of polarity, which means as the torus compresses and decompresses, explodes and implodes, it creates polarity over here. For example, you can see the change in polarity on a continuous basis, and this is what is called vortex mass, which completely blends in to the torus model. Now, why is this important? It is important because humanity has forgotten what it is that makes us human. The ancients knew this, that the body and the mind are inseparable, so is the spirit and the soul. And this is what gives us the force. When we die, the body remains, the mind, soul, and the spirit goes away. Spirit and the soul actually have a force that is part of the chi or the universe. Unfortunately, we have forgotten about it. And this is encoded in ancient wisdom. The Celtic cross, for example, exactly explains the spirit, mind, body, and soul complex. There's more. For example, when three forces of body, mind, spirit come together, it basically creates the knot or the fleur de lis. More than that, we have also found that when these different forces come together inside our heart in the four chambers and they move and combine with each other, it basically creates the shamrock. What did the ancients say about polarity, for example? They never meant the physical side of union. They always explained the subconscious piece, and that is Buddha with the woman over here is not physical, it is subconscious. That's the reason they have explained the polarities. The male is positive with a different color, the woman, the female polarity. On top of that, the three knots over here basically explain how the heart operates, that it is from the heart comes the energy. The torus field is showed in the lotus, and the rose basically means the fractality of inside out, because a rose opens from inside to outside. Long story short, the fundamental piece that we need to understand is the universe is nothing but a torus field, and the ancients knew it. They knew the astroscience model was nothing but energies within energies within energies, like a torus. To prove that, we can explain how this works, because whatever the energy of the universe is, it also flows into our bodies through our mind, our soul, our heart, and it creates polarity as well. We can see these shapes on a continuous basis. That is, the atom, the human, and the universe are one and the same. The study of the body parts of a human is called anatomy. The ancients knew that the universe, the atom, and the human are all connected. It's just not the human, it is everybody, every species of living animals with consciousness. And the universe, with its energy, sends out these electromagnetic pulses that binds us together, and it creates self-consciousness in creatures. Now do we know why the fish were so aligned with the universe that they could navigate themselves into a flock as one combined conscious intelligence to create a shape that human beings can never create? Unfortunately, humans have gone all wrong. They think they are superior, and rest of the animals are nothing but food. Nothing is far from the truth, and that is the reason they have created structures that have lasted a lifetime, and we need to stop and take notice. Now, why do we need to take notice? Because humans are the only species of animals that is not aligned with either the atom or the universe. And this is where the dichotomy and separation starts. So let's look at it. Technology and devices, as you know, they interfere with our aura, and the aura is created inside our bodies. It's a trap. The English word device explains it is a plan, method, trick with a particular aim, which means when we use these devices, we have to be very careful because it is a divisive plan. What devices do is basically create an illusion in a different reality that our consciousness does not understand. Why is that? Let's take a look. The balls that you see over here have different colors. That's what we assume it is. Is that so? Let's take a look. If you look at this again and again, you'll see our mind, our consciousness is completely tricked. This is how the reality inside our reality tricks us. Let's look at it again. Take a look at the square grid, but sometimes to the brain, you'll feel that the lines are not straight. Let's watch another. As you roll your eyes all over this grid, you'll suddenly see the black dots appearing and disappearing. Why is that? Because this is how consciousness in our bodies and in our minds operate. That is, we cannot be separate from the object that we are looking at, which means the observer is not separate from the object observed. It is one and the same. Only when everything is one and the same can we be aligned with the universal energies. But what happens when we are watching, say, a television or playing a video game? What happens is that we get into the mode of a trap, which is the reality within a reality that causes changes of feelings. But the whole thing is so separate and it is so built with dichotomy that although we might find it amusing, we are separated and disconnected from the rest of the universe and universal consciousness. Black Mirror made it very clear that once we use these devices, we change our conscious reality and we go through what is called separation of the self and the dichotomy between us and the universe. Only human beings can do that. Why? Because only we have choice to separate ourselves at our will. This separation of the self and this dichotomy creates loneliness. So what is loneliness? When our energies, our body, mind, spirit, soul energies are disconnected from the universe, we find loneliness. That's why continuously watching movies and watching or playing video games creates loneliness, because the outside and the inside are completely separate. So going on to the same philosophy that we talked about, until we realize that we have to align with the same energies, we have to disconnect to reconnect, we will never be able to understand how we are aligned with the universe. The problems are plenty, which means as these problems multiply, cumulatively, we create a social collective structure which creates problems and more and more. Why did this happen? If we knew all this, what happened? Because we are completely taken off from the spirit. Do you see any books explaining the power of consciousness? Hardly. Why don't they teach us? Because if we learned all this when we were children, we would realize that we can be successful, but success doesn't make us happy. And we have seen this again and again. There are many people who have lived extremely, seemingly happy lives outside, but inside they are burning. And this is the reason the disconnectedness has created nothing but problems for our children, specifically during COVID, when everything was based on technology and separation. At one point, more the separation and the dichotomy with the universe, we feel disconnected. The real problem is the problem of energy and the problem of the soul. Because at point, the soul reaches out to you to find alignment with the universe and says, "Who am I?" Steve Jobs understood all these problems, and that's the reason never allowed his kids to use the iPad. It's just plain shocking that we are the consumers of the iPad, whereas the innovator and the creator of the iPad understood the problem. That is because we are so disconnected from our spirit and the soul that we do not know spiritual physics and soul mechanics. It is very common knowledge that before the soul incarnates, it creates a sacred contract with the universe to accomplish certain things. Whatever the task of the soul that has been agreed upon, that is shown as an experience for us, which is the reason whatever is outside is actually inside. Only humans don't understand this and are not connected to this experience. That's the reason we need to find our purpose. That's the reason we need to separate ourselves from these technology devices sometimes and when needed, to ensure that our mind is open and we balance our energies of inside and outside. The more we are focused outside, we have to be focused inside. This is a universal law, and this is not something that you can deny or defy, which is the reason we always say that you have to find a place which teaches all this. And this cannot be just mumbo jumbo. You can go to different therapists and it's going to work for you. But what matters is this ancient wisdom that Project Eternity provides. We will explain what we do in the next video and what is our program. But what matters to you at this moment of time is to disconnect so you can reconnect. The deep meditation to understand how to raise your energies from the bottom to higher so that you can gain that energy. But then you also have to be aligned with who you are and the universe to move forward, which is the reason the purpose is fundamental. Until you find your own purpose, you will always be going in the wrong direction because we are not self-aware creatures. We cannot hold our consciousness consciously for more than 7 seconds. Only wisdom can help you be extremely self-aware and be aligned with the purpose, aligned with the universe, aligned with the different energies, so there is no dichotomy. That is the objective of the Project Eternity Digital Detox program, so we can build a civilization that is amazing, technologically advanced, but also humble and aligned. And that is important. Until we align ourselves completely, we'll never find the joy, because disconnectedness and separation creates dichotomy. More dichotomy, the more separation, and we feel lonely. So whatever may be our achievement inside will be broken. We can do better, and that's why Project Eternity transforms successful business leaders and their generations through alchemy, spiritual physics, and other subjects that were only used by the ancients. Over here, business, technology, and spirituality merge together. We give you wisdom so you can have control over who you are, what you want to become, so you can find peace, love, happiness, and success. Thank you.